What if I told you that a man once lived a perfectly normal life, with only 10% of his brain? It is a statement that seems to belong to the realm of fantasy, a premise for a tale of science fiction. And yet, within the quiet, unassuming world of medical science, this extraordinary reality came to light. This is a real medical case that shocked doctors, challenged what we know about the very organ that defines our consciousness, and raised one huge, profound question: do we really need all of our brain to function? The answer, it seems, is far more complex and wondrous than we could ever have imagined. The brain, that 3-pound universe of tissue and electricity, is often considered the seat of our identity, our memories, our very being. We protect it, we study it, and we are humbled by its intricate design. But the story of this one individual, a civil servant living an ordinary existence in France, forces us to reconsider the fundamental rules we thought governed our biology. It is a story not of loss, but of astonishing adaptation, a testament to the life force's relentless will to persist against all odds. Join me as we explore the delicate, almost magical interplay between biology and circumstance. We will journey into the depths of the human skull, where a vast, silent ocean of fluid replaced what should have been solid ground, and witness how life, in its quiet, determined way, found a path forward. Let's dive into one of the most impossible facts ever discovered. Our story begins in 2007, not in a high-tech research facility, but in a quiet French hospital. A 44-year-old man, a husband and father of 2, sought medical attention for a mild weakness that had developed in his left leg. It was a seemingly routine complaint, one that might suggest a simple nerve issue. To understand the cause, doctors ordered a computed tomography scan, a CT scan, of his brain. What they saw on the screen was so astonishing, so utterly contrary to established medical knowledge, that it must have felt like looking at an impossible artifact. Instead of the familiar, dense, wrinkled mass of the cerebral cortex, the scan revealed a vast, dark expanse. This darkness was fluid, filling nearly the entire cranial cavity. Pushed to the very edges, compressed into a thin, fragile-looking ribbon against the skull, was the man's brain tissue. By all estimations, over 90% of his brain was simply not there. And yet, the man before them was not in a vegetative state. He was a functioning civil servant, a member of society, living a life of unremarkable normalcy. The question that echoed in the minds of every physician who saw the scan was immediate and profound. How? How was this possible? The diagnosis for this extraordinary condition has a name: hydrocephalus, a term derived from Greek for water on the brain. In this patient's case, it was a condition he had lived with since infancy. He had been treated as a baby with a shunt, a small tube designed to drain excess cerebrospinal fluid from the brain. However, for reasons unknown, this shunt had ceased to function years, perhaps even decades earlier. Slowly, imperceptibly, the fluid began to accumulate once more, exerting a relentless, gentle pressure on the brain tissue surrounding it. This gradual process is the key to this biological miracle. Unlike a sudden traumatic injury which would be catastrophic, this buildup was incredibly slow. Year after year, the fluid expanded, and the brain, rather than shutting down, gave way. It was a retreat, a slow-motion compression that allowed the remaining neural structures to adapt. The brain was not so much destroyed as it was remodeled, squeezed into a fraction of its normal space. Life, in its silent, patient way, had found a way to continue its work within an ever-shrinking territory, a testament to the remarkable resilience of living tissue. This incredible case might seem at first glance to be the ultimate proof of a very popular and persistent myth, that we humans only use 10% of our brain's capacity. It's an alluring idea suggesting that a vast, untapped potential lies dormant within all of us, waiting to be unlocked. However, this is one of the most enduring fallacies in popular science. Modern neuroscience, with its sophisticated tools like fMRI and PET scans, has shown us a very different picture. These technologies reveal that even during simple tasks, vast networks across the entire brain light up with activity. When we are at rest or even asleep, our brain is humming with processes, consolidating memories, and regulating our bodies. So if we use all of our brain, how do we explain this man? The answer lies not in a debunked myth, but in a far more fascinating biological truth. His case does not prove that 90% of the brain is useless filler. Instead, it demonstrates the brain's almost magical flexibility, its profound ability to adapt and rewire itself in the face of extreme adversity. It shows that the functions normally spread across a large area can, under immense and gradual pressure, be consolidated into a much smaller, hyper-efficient space. He was living proof not of the 10% myth, but of the brain's incredible, life-affirming power to change. The phenomenon that allowed this man to live his life is known as neuroplasticity. This is not some fringe theory, but a cornerstone of modern neuroscience. It refers to the brain's remarkable, lifelong ability to reorganize its structure, functions, and connections in response to experience, learning, or injury. Think of the brain not as a pre-programmed rigid computer, but as a living, dynamic landscape of neural pathways, constantly being reshaped by the flow of information and necessity. It is the very mechanism that allows us to learn a new skill, form a new memory, or recover from damage. We see evidence of this superpower all around us, in less extreme but equally profound ways. When a person suffers a stroke that damages a specific region of the brain responsible for movement, other adjacent areas can sometimes take over those lost functions through intensive therapy. A blind individual learning to read Braille develops a heightened sense of touch, and brain scans show that their visual cortex, deprived of sight, is repurposed to process tactile information. Neuroplasticity is the brain's fundamental survival strategy. It is evolution's gift of adaptability, allowing the organism to bend without breaking, to find new solutions when old ones are lost. The medical team that assessed this man was, naturally, in a state of professional awe. They subjected him to a battery of tests to quantify just how normal he truly was. The results were staggering. His intelligence quotient, or IQ, was measured at 75. While this is below the average score of 100, it is not considered to be in the range of intellectual disability. He was, by all clinical definitions, a functional individual. He held down a job as a civil servant, was married and was raising 2 children. He was, in essence, a contributing member of his community, entirely independent. Dr. Lionel Fouillet, a neurologist at the Hôpital de la Timone in Marseille who was involved in the case, expressed the sentiment of the entire scientific community. He described it as a living demonstration of the brain's incredible ability to adapt. His comments, published in the prestigious medical journal The Lancet, sent ripples through the world of neuroscience. It was one thing to theorize about the brain's plasticity in a laboratory setting, but it was another entirely to be confronted with a living, breathing human being whose very existence was a testament to this principle in its most extreme form. The man was a walking, talking paradox that forced a re-evaluation of the relationship between physical brain matter and conscious function. Upon hearing this story, a natural and perhaps slightly unsettling question arises: could this happen to anyone? Is it possible that others are walking amongst us with similarly diminished brains, unaware of their extraordinary internal state? The answer, according to medical experts, is that this case is exceptionally, almost vanishingly, rare. The critical factor that permitted this man's survival and function was the timescale over which the change occurred. The decades-long, slow, and steady increase in fluid pressure allowed for a gradual, adaptive reorganization of his neural networks. If an individual were to lose 90% of their brain suddenly, through a severe traumatic injury or a massive stroke, the outcome would almost certainly be fatal. The brain simply cannot cope with such a catastrophic and immediate loss of tissue and function. There is no time for neuroplasticity to work its slow magic. Each case of severe brain anomaly is unique, a complex interplay of genetics, the specific cause of the condition, and the timing of its onset and progression. This Frenchman's story is not a blueprint for survival, but rather an outlier, a 1 in billions biological marvel that highlights the absolute upper limits of the body's resilience. This case, honestly, fundamentally challenges our deeply ingrained assumptions about intelligence and its connection to the physical brain. For centuries, we've kind of operated on a more is better principle, associating greater brain size or at least a full complement of brain matter with higher cognitive function. We see this in comparisons across species and, in the subtle biases that exist in our own culture. Yet, this man, with a brain reduced to a mere sliver of its expected volume, possessed functional intelligence. He could reason, work, and maintain complex social relationships. This forces us to consider that the sheer volume of neural tissue may not be the most important metric for intelligence. Maybe what matters more is the efficiency of the neural pathways that exist. His brain, though small, must have developed incredibly streamlined and robust connections to handle the demands of daily life. It suggests that intelligence is not just about having a large library of neurons, but about how effectively that library is organized and accessed. His case is a powerful reminder that the quality and adaptability of the connections may be far more crucial than the quantity of the cells themselves. While the French civil servant's case is perhaps the most extreme ever documented in an adult, he is not entirely alone in the annals of medical marvels. There are other astonishing cases, particularly in children, that showcase biology's capacity for, well, the impossible. One of the most remarkable areas of study involves patients who have undergone a hemispherectomy, a radical surgical procedure where an entire half of the brain is removed. This is typically a last resort for children suffering from severe, intractable epilepsy originating from one side of the brain. What is truly incredible is that many of these children go on to live remarkably full lives. The remaining hemisphere, thanks to the immense plasticity of the developing brain, rewires itself to take on many of the functions of the missing half. They learn to walk, talk, and attend school, often with only minor impairments. These cases, like that of our Frenchman, serve as powerful illustrations of the brain's profound redundancy and its compensatory abilities. They show that life is not always constrained by the blueprint. It possesses an extraordinary power to improvise, adapt, and overcome even the most fundamental of losses. When we gaze up at the night sky, we are often struck by a sense of humility. The sheer scale of the cosmos, the billions of galaxies and untold number of worlds, reminds us of how little we truly know about the universe around us. Yet this man's story reveals that an equally vast and mysterious universe resides within each of our skulls. In many ways, we have charted the surface of distant planets with more certainty than we have mapped the intricate territory of our own consciousness. We are, in a very real sense, strangers in our own minds. This case is a profound lesson in intellectual humility. It tells us that our models of biology, as sophisticated as they are still incomplete. There are exceptions to rules we thought were ironclad, and possibilities that lie beyond our current understanding. The great frontiers of exploration in the 21st century may not only be in the depths of space or the oceans, but in the quiet, mysterious realm of the human brain. The quest to understand ourselves, to probe the nature of thought, memory, and identity, is perhaps the most important journey of all. This man's brain, in its beautiful strangeness, is a beacon on that journey. So is it possible to live a normal life with only 10% of a brain? The answer, astonishingly, is yes. It is a reality made possible not by magic, but by the fundamental principles of biology pushed to their absolute limits. It is a story of incredible, slow-moving adaptation, where the relentless pressure of hydrocephalus was met by the equally relentless power of neuroplasticity. The brain, compressed and remodeled, did not surrender. It consolidated its resources, streamlined its operations, and carried on the business of life. This is not just a medical curiosity, it is a profound testament to the hidden potential that lies within our own biology. It speaks to a resilience that we rarely get to witness, a capacity for change that defies our expectations. The man's story proves that the brain is not a static piece of hardware, but a dynamic, living ecosystem, capable of weathering the most extraordinary storms. It reminds us that beneath the surface of the ordinary, the impossible can and does happen, revealing just how much more there is to learn about the incredible organ that makes us who we are. Blown away? This is just one of many unbelievable facts we've uncovered. The story of the man with almost no brain is a powerful reminder that the world is far stranger and more wonderful than we often assume. It shows us that reality itself can be more mind-bending than any work of fiction, and that the greatest mysteries often lie hidden within our own bodies, waiting for a curious mind to ask the right questions. Science is not a collection of settled facts, but a continuing journey of discovery, and stories like this are the landmarks that guide us into new and uncharted territory. Every case, every anomaly, and every question pushes the boundaries of our knowledge, forcing us to rethink what we thought we knew. Our own capacity for wonder is the engine of this exploration. So if you love stories that challenge science, bend reality, and open your mind to the breathtaking complexity of life, then you have found your tribe. We are dedicated to uncovering these hidden narratives and sharing them with a community that thrives on curiosity. There are countless more impossible facts out there, waiting in old medical journals, forgotten history books, and the latest scientific papers. Hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and join our community of curious thinkers. More impossible facts are coming your way.